So, if there is ever a time to be annoyed by the new Green Ranger, it's probably going to happen in this episode. Hi, guys. My name is Maria Park, and this is Approach to Nerd. In this episode, we are reviewing Power Rangers Dino Fury, episode 5, entitled Winning Attitude. And since this is a very Izzy centric episode, she did not have a winning attitude. She had a aggravating and irritating attitude. So basically, Izzy is being trained by her cousin who has special needs, kind of like my brother. My brother has autism. So Lily is a medalist, a champion of the Special Olympics, which is awesome. I'm really happy that they had a character to show, kind of homage to the Special Olympics and autism and, people that have intellectual challenges community. So I'm completely down with that. It's interesting how Izzy treated Lily, though, in this episode, because she was kind of a biatch. I'm just going to be real with you. A biatch, but I'll get to that in a minute. This episode, we're basically trying to find the Green and Black Ranger Zords. And Sullen thinks that she may know where it is. It's in Greenlee Woods, which coincidentally, that's exactly where Izzy is having her race, because she's going to be running in the race. And so Solon's like, I'm going to make this device that's going to be able to tell us where, the Zords was and of course, or where they're located. And of course, I was like, yeah, what could go wrong? So long story short, so Izzy is training with Lily, and Lily's giving her pointers on, how to increase her speed, how to keep her endurance up. And apparently she makes some mean protein shakes. But, Lily has this thing called a life. And so she goes to help one of her friends. And she ends up being late to meet up with Izzy because, she was helping this friend. And, so Izzy doesn't know all the details. She doesn't know why her cousin is late. She just gets offended and she's like, oh, so you went with your friend. And then, Lily's trying to explain, I had to help my friend go shopping. She didn't say I went shopping and we were having fun. I lost track of time. She's like, she was literally trying to explain the situation and Izzy was like brushing her off. And I'm like, wow, okay. Biatch move, we later find out that the friend was in a wheelchair because she broke her leg and she couldn't reach anything on the top shelves at the grocery stores and all the stores they were at. And so that's why Lily was late. She didn't want to abandon her friend who at that time had a handicap to go and, meet up with her cousins. And she even brought Izzy a protein, shake, and Izzy was in her feelings. And so she's like, nah, and she just runs off. And I'm like, all right. So I've already decided that Izzy is the hot-headed, illogical one of the group because every team has one. So that is her role in this series so far. Okay. So while they're trying to find the Zords, someone's working on a device, the Rangers are going to help get parts for this device to be built. And of course, Izzy's in her feelings. We have a lot of things going on with the side characters. Side note, I've always loved this. I've always loved this about the side characters and extras. They sometimes do not do a lot to try and mask their New Zealand accents. So, whereas, of course, Lily has one. She's from New Zealand. She's also special needs. That's fine. But it's like there's a scene where Jane is with Jayborg and they're making like a PSA type video with children on what to do if you see a Sporax. You call 555-0172. That whole thing reminded me of the IT Crowd. If you've ever watched that show when they had like the new sophisticated, good looking, police officer upgrades and they had this long, like asinine number that they had to call. And it was absolutely hilarious. If you haven't seen, I'll see if I can find it and link it at the bottom of this video. Hopefully it's online somewhere. It is absolutely hilarious. But this scene kind of reminded me of that. But she's training the kids, stay calm, call the Power Ranger hotline, 555-0172, and the Ranger will come help you. And of course, a Sporax shows up, and then, she's like, Jane's flipping out, so is Jayborg, and the kids are like, what? And so the one little girl's like, she's like, oh, I'm going to call 555-0172, but she's got the accent, and it's like, yeah. So Pine Ridge is in New Zealand. So I always find that funny whenever I hear that. But yeah, so Brian Blast is the latest monster. He's very sophisticated. He is looking for love. He doesn't have any kids, but if he meets the right trout, I'm like, oh Lord. I'm like, but anyway, he's there with Boom Tower and Mucus, and of course the Rangers get called. And as usual, they drive me crazy by getting to the scene unmorphed every effing time, because I guess they just assume that when you call the hotline, you made a run for it and you've successfully escaped. They don't ever assume that maybe the victim is still there needing help, which I don't understand. I will never get that, but you know what? Whatever. It's just what it is. I mean, Jane and Jay Borg literally have missed seeing them multiple times. This is only episode 5, so it's probably only going to get worse. And then I have other questions, but so Jane and Jay Borg get into this garbage can while they were waiting for the Rangers, and of course, Brian Blast is blasting them, and like they're calling the hotline for help, and come save us. And she's like, we're on, I think she's at 3rd Street. No, 4th, 5th, 6th. They went all the way to I think it was 5th Street through 7th Street. Well, they get to, I think, 7th Street. It could have been 8th Street. And they hit a police car, a Pine Ridge police car. And the cop just gets out and is like, I'm giving you a ticket. And I'm like, man, it's rough living in that place. I'm like, you already know that there are sporacks, that can get really, really big. You don't even ask the situation. You just automatically just say, you rolled this garbage can into my car. So yeah, Pine Ridge is a great place to live. Okay. So the Rangers show up, and then we finally get a full team morph, which is cool. And I noticed 3 interesting facts about this. So Green and Black already know the choreography for the whole morphing sequence, and basically to get into the morphing grid. So they know all the pose. Like, I don't know, they make it seem like Amelia and Ollie are just slow because like they came in knowing everything. Now I know when they all punch the ground, like Izzy actually takes her claw because she's Tiger, and she hits him in the ground with both of her hands and then does a Tiger pose. Very reminiscent of Gal White and Gal Ranger, or if you've only seen Wild Force, Alyssa and Noble Tiger, I think that's what they called her, Noble Tiger and Wild Force. So very reminiscent of that. So that was kind of cool. And then I have a question. So her first initial morph in the last episode, she just rips this skirt off. So does that mean that the morphing grid understands your style preference and therefore never includes the skirt again, even though your initial suit had that skirt? For me, I think it'd have been very cool if every time she morphed, she had a skirt and she kept ripping it off, because the morphing grid doesn't give 2 poos about your personal skirt stance. So I was just really curious, is that how that works? And if that's true, does that mean you can modify other aspects of your suit? So she decided not to have a skirt, therefore when she morphs, she no longer has a skirt. Well, what if I decided to change my color? I decided I don't like this color. Can I be something else? Like, how does that work? It's really opened up a lot of questions for me. So I know I nitpick, but I mean, come on, that's actually a logical question. I really want to know, how does the morphing grid know not to include the skirt now? Just saying. Somehow Black was fighting a lot better than Red in this episode. I don't know what it is. I mean, Vito has like 67 million years of experience, but it was interesting. It was interesting. He got knocked down pretty quickly. So it's just little nitpicky things. I know it's just something I just noticed in this episode. Back to Izzy though. Izzy has an extreme daddy complex. Daddy wants her to win. Daddy expects her to win. Therefore, she feels pressured to win all the time. It is very sad. It's not a message that the father should be putting out there. And now that I know that Izzy is adopted, maybe that plays into another reason why she wants to please her dad so much, which is interesting. That's an interesting angle if that's what they're doing. They're going that way. But yeah, I just think it's interesting that everything she says is like, my dad wants me to do this. My dad wants me to do that. Are you really competing in all these events because you like it or because you want to make your dad happy? And I'm wondering if that's going to be a future episode. So yeah, she has that. And again, she didn't hear Lily out initially. Then she sees, I want to say the girl's name was Mona. Mona was the friend in the wheelchair. She sees Mona, and then she's like, oh my gosh, I need to go apologize. I love the fact that the running gag between her dad and her brother was, what's wrong? Are you gassy? So apparently she farts a lot too. I'm like, Izzy is a farter. She has broke the 4th wall. Like, I don't think I've ever heard, outside of the fart attacks we've seen in multiple shows. Like we saw them in Dino Charge. We definitely saw them in this one. No one's ever just come out and said, I'm gassy. are past gas that I know of. So it's interesting that she's the farter of the team. Learning a lot, guys. But yeah, so there is a girl that Izzy is competing with as well in this show called Fern. She has resting bitch face. She's apparently the new girl. I don't know if she's the new girl on the team or the new girl at school or both, but she does not like Izzy. Izzy really doesn't seem to care for her. But when they were running, it actually looked like Fern was about to take off and outrun Izzy. I think that she probably would have won because she looked like she was a strong athlete, but she tripped over like a branch and rolled down the hill and hurt her ankle. And Izzy was like, I have such a big lead. And then she sees her, cousin in her head saying, winning isn't everything, especially if you can help people, basically helping people is better than winning a medal. The fact that she had to take time to think about that questions her ranger material to me. You really sure you should be a ranger? But, she took those 30 seconds to have that flashback and then go see Fern. So she went and saved Fern. But that put her dead last in the race. But of course, while she's getting ready to continue the race, she overhears pretty much, I want to say it was Mucus. And at the time, I think that Brian Blast was actually fighting the Rangers. And so, yeah, because she was still competing and they were all in the Megazord trying and getting their butt whoops. So it is what it is. But Boom Tower and Mucus were like drilling. The drill was actually doing a lot of the work by itself. I was pretty impressed because basically the plan is that they're going to try and get to the Zords by pushing a bomb underground and I guess blowing them up. Void Knight came up with this with Mucus. Mucus is treated like a secondhand stepchild in this, and I think there's going to be some kind of reckoning. I know it happens in Rule Soldier, but I think this is going to be an interesting storyline in terms of Mucus. I mean, for all I know, Mucus might even switch sides. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that's happened in the series. But yeah, Izzy overhears them and drilling, so she kind of takes them on a little bit by themselves. And for some reason, they don't double team her. They just like make a little speech of ha 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 ha, we're gonna blow them and then run. So again, I've always said this. They are not trying to kill the Rangers. Unlike Rita Repulsa, though, Void Knight is not very sensitive to school needs. So he doesn't care if Izzy's in school. He doesn't care if she's running in a school event or an extracurricular activity for school. Power Rangers at least got to have school time. Every so often, maybe the dance or the Halloween party got interrupted, but she let them go to school during the day. Like, I feel like Izzy's going to have to like switch to homeschooling at this rate. So, because Void Knight doesn't give two F's about her schooling. So, I know Nickelodeon. But so basically they fight it out. The Rangers are getting their butt handed to them. And so Izzy wants to try and see if her Zord's there, but she can't get to it. And I know that her Dino key was kind of like reacting to it. So she told them to bring Brian Blast there to blast the mountain and basically have the bad guy help get the Zord out of the mountain, and it works. And so, she gets her Zord out, and the Zord it's kind of cute. But what's interesting also for me is that she automatically knew the attacks. So like, the Zord gets out of the cliff and, it automatically combines, but she already knows what like weapons it has and stuff. And like, it's called the Tiger Claw Zord, but she already knew like the Zord's capabilities. Like it's interesting. I really found myself wanting to go back to episode 1 to say, I really wish that they knew nothing. I really wish that they were learning on the fly, because the only one that should know anything is Zato. So yeah, I was kind of bummed out by that. But outside of that, at least we got the green Megazord now. We don't have black yet. We have green. So I think, next week we're going to have an adventure for black, because this is more of a green centric episode. But they combined. It was cool. They did not get the Sporex, unfortunately, at the end. Boom Tower got it to take back to his master. So they lost one. But at least they got the Zord, and they should have the device that scans for the black one. So more than likely that will be what happens in the next episode. And then, of course, Izzy apologizes to Lily for being a biatch. And then, Lily gives Izzy her medal for sportsmanship, which I thought was pretty cool. And then Izzy's dad is like, well, you came in last. I was like, what? But then I heard what you did and I could not be more proud. And he starts that whole round. I'm like, man, just stop talking. And I'm like, just stop. So yeah, in a nutshell, it was an okay episode. Again, it did make Izzy very unlikable. I'm just gonna be real with you. She definitely needs to work on her attitude and sportsmanship. So, but again, that's how a lot of characters start off in the Power Ranger universe. They grow, they adapt. There's no hate here. I'm just telling you, she was a little annoying. I do notice that Jane gets to change her clothes all the time, but I feel like our Ranger girls are not going to do that. I feel like Amelia has 2 outfits to her name. She doesn't own anything else. And more than likely, Izzy is the same way. I still stand by my question. Does the Morphin Grid take notes on your personal fashion preferences? You don't want a skirt, therefore we will not give you a skirt on your suit when you morph from now on. I really would have loved to have her morph and be like, this damn skirt, and just take the damn skirt off again. And that was like her anger mode. So if they ever decide to do any like creative, original fight scenes that aren't based off the Sentai's, the Rue Soldier footage, that, there was some where she's fighting, and then when she gets angry, she just rips the skirt off, and then she's like, I'm tired of this, holding me back, and then like, I just thought that would have been kind of a really creative way of doing it. But now it's just got me really questioning the Morphin Grid as a whole. I literally can tell the Morphin Grid what I want, and it gives it to me, regardless of the power key that I have, regardless of the powers that I have, regardless of the dinosaur that I have. It gives it to me. And I guess it goes into play with how did they know that a female was going to get the green ring or the green key to begin with? There's so many questions you just have to ask yourself. So I don't have a morphing master to ask, but I just have questions, guys. I have questions. I have questions every episode. I just really do. I have so many whys. But I mean, for the most part, I still enjoy the show. I definitely enjoyed the group morph, but then I've liked the morph from the beginning. I still don't like the opening theme. I'm never gonna like the opening theme. I can't make myself like the opening theme, and I'm not going to try. So I don't like it. But as for the characters themselves, they're great. Ollie got a few lines. Amelia got a few lines. Again, this was more of a Izzy, focused episode. So I'm sure we'll see more of the team next week. But I think if I read the synopsis correctly, it's actually more of an Amelia themed episode next week. So I don't know what's happening there, but we'll see. I'll review it, and hopefully I'll probably have questions. So if you took nothing away from this, review, all of the extras still have New Zealand accents because, why not? Jane has more clothes than everybody in the series. The main girls aren't allowed to have more than one outfit, or 2 at the most. And the Morphin Grid does really care about your outfit choices and your fashion styling preferences. It's what I got. I'm like, but what did you think of the episode? Leave me a comment below and let me know. And if you would like to sign up for jury duty, hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to know who's next on their bell, hit the notification bell. Until next time, I can't wait for you to approach the nerd. Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it, but hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.